I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's JKM coming back at you with another video. Yesterday I posted my wild card predictions for the first round of the NFL playoffs that start this week. So before those games start today, I'm going to go ahead and do my entire NFL playoffs bracket predictions, and who I think is going to end up in the Super Bowl and who I think is going to eventually win the Super Bowl. Um, so I'm going to start that out today. My picks are going to be very similar to the first round, so I'm probably not going to go into too much depth with that. But before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to be coming at you with a lot of draft content the next couple months, a lot of NFL playoffs content the next couple months, and we got free agency coming up and head coaching hiring. So if you want to stay in the loop for all that, make sure to hit subscribe so you can watch all my videos that are coming out. So starting out, picking up with this, going in order a little bit. The first section in last video, if you haven't watched it, please go watch that. Go see my predictions for the wild card matchup. But my first prediction was the Chargers over the Texans. The Chargers have kind of been on a roll here. They've been playing their best football. They've been running the ball very well. J.K. Dobbins coming back has been a great addition. Quentin Johnson is starting to come into his own. And I really think Justin Herbert is really going to be the big difference in this game. He's playing great football, not turning the ball over. They're really embodying their new head coach, playing good Jim Harbaugh football, run the ball, take care of it, control the game. With their offense line and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, they're really doing a great job up there of just controlling the game. I think it's going to be a big part, especially against the Texans who are struggling. CJ Stroud's been making a lot of mistakes, throwing a lot of turnovers. Joe Mixon's going to get his if they do win the game. Joe Mixon's got to get involved, and their run game's got to take control. Nico Collins is going to get his. But I think overall, Texans have been struggling. They got blown out on Christmas Day by the Ravens, 31-2. They barely beat a Jaguars team a couple weeks ago by a field goal. And they've really just been struggling the last couple of weeks. And I think that they're going to play decently well, but I think the Chargers are just going to do a great job of running the ball, controlling the game. So I'm going to pick the Chargers moving on to the divisional round. The next game we're going to is the other AFC, Ravens versus Steelers. A couple of weeks ago, this game might have been different, but here we have the Steelers, who's another struggling team who has really just not been playing how they were a couple of weeks ago. They actually split the season series with the Ravens. Each team won one, but the Ravens are red hot right now. They're playing great football. They're playing the best that they've played all season. Lamar Jackson is trying to steal away the MVP from Josh Allen. You could argue one of them two are going to win it. He's doing his best to try to make a case for it. And Derrick Henry's back in there. So hopefully the Ravens can play up to their best. I really do think that they are this year. After the last couple of years, they've been kind of disappointing and lost some games that they shouldn't have. And honestly, I think it comes down to the more explosiveness of the Ravens. The Steelers, their offense has been struggling. In the game that they did beat them, they scored like 5 or 6 field goals with Chris Boswell. And this time around playing the Ravens, 6 field goals just isn't going to do it. So you would need to get into the end zone, score some points. So I'm going to pick the Ravens, go ahead and move on there. The last AFC wildcard game we got going on is the Bills versus Broncos. I do think this game is going to be closer than what people think. Sean Payton's going to have a great game plan. He's a former Super Bowl winning coach. He knows what he's doing. Bo Nix, even though he's a rookie, first time on the road in the playoffs, going into a very cold environment, Buffalo, very hostile environment. I do think he's going to play great. I think he's going to do a great job. It's just that they don't have enough pieces and they're not explosive enough to be able to make the big plays when they need to. Going against that Bills defense, their edge pieces are very great, and Gregory Rousseau, and AJ Epinesa. So I do think that's going to be the difference. They're going to get a little bit of pressure on Bo Nix, even though I think he is truly going to play great like he did against the Bengals a couple weeks ago, but they're just not going to have enough to be able to get over Josh Allen, who's just going to make plays at will, and he's going to do what he has to do to be able to get his team into the divisional round. he seems like a different man. He seems like a guy that's determined, and I'm gonna pick the Bills. Let's move it on. And gonna create some great matchups in the second round of the divisional round. Next, we're gonna flip over and keep doing the wild card in the NFC now. These are some very interesting matchups that I think have a great opportunity for some upsets. Probably the game that I had the biggest struggle in picking was Green Bay versus the Eagles. Both teams are dealing with a little bit of injuries. Green Bay doesn't have Jair Alexander. Jordan Love got hurt last week, had to go out of the game, leading to him losing against the Chicago Bears. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts has been out last couple weeks. My gut initially was to pick Green Bay. After thinking about it a little bit, Jordan Love going out with the injury, even though he is going to play, he's going to be a little nagging hand wrist issue. I think the Eagles are more talented and have more star power. I would not be surprised at all if Green Bay goes into Philly and just beats the Eagles and moves on. But looking at it, Eagles, even if you have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts is having an off game, you still have Saquon Barkley in that offensive line. Saquon's going to get at least 100 rushing yards. Josh Jacobs is going to get his too. But Saquon, they just have a way better supporting cast. They have more of the star power. The Eagles' defense is playing great, even though they kind of struggled the last couple weeks too. I just think Saquon's going to put them over in that offensive line after thinking about it a little bit more. Once again, would not be shocked at all if Green Bay came in and pulled that one out. Second round, this is actually going to be one of my lower seeding shocking picks that many people aren't really picking. Well, some people are picking the Buccaneers to be a dark horse NFC championship team. I would not be shocked either if that happened because they were playing good a couple weeks ago. But the last couple weeks, they've really been struggling. They struggled against the Panthers. They struggled a lot in the first half against the Saints last week. Um, Trying to get Mike Evans his incentives. Jalen McMillan went off. It's going to be kind of hard for the Commanders to cover Mike Evans and McMillan, but I think that they're going to get it done. I think the true deciding factor here is I think the Buccaneers have a great run game with Bucky Irvin. Commanders have one of the worst run defenses, but I think the Buccaneers are going to shy away from it. I think that they're going to get too pass happy. They're going to try to feed McMillan. They're going to let Baker go out, and he's going to have a decent game, I think. He's not going to go off for the couple games that he has. I think the Commanders are really going to come back. Jaden Daniels has been playing great. They're kind of like a little roller coaster team. They either go shooting straight up, and they're great for like 2 weeks. Next week, they come out and they're like, is this the same Commanders team? But I think they pull it out and they're on that roller coaster high right now. Jaden Daniels is playing great ball. They're running the ball pretty well. Terry McLaurin's kind of hit or miss, but I think Dan Quinn is going to have Marshawn Lattimore is going to shut down Mike Evans, and that Jaden Daniels is going to make some better plays and the more talented plays, and that they're going to move on. The last game of Wild Card weekend, that Monday night, Vikings versus Rams. This is another game. Vikings are going to be favored, but Rams very easily are not a bad team. They've beaten some good teams this year, like the Bills, and they've played well in several other ones. They have Puka, they have Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford always goes off in the playoffs. He always does a great job in the playoffs. I think Matthew Stafford's could have a great game and could go off and lead them to victory. But I think the real true key here is the trenches. I think it's the front seven of the Minnesota Vikings. I think that the offensive line of the Rams is going to struggle. I think Brian Flores is who's going to be a future head coach next year. I think his front seven, his blitz packages are just so exotic. Everybody's been struggling with them all year. I think he's really going to put pressure up there on the Rams, on Matthew Stafford. I think that's going to be the big difference here in this game. Sam Darnold's going to kind of have an average game, I feel like. Kevin O'Connell, though, he's going to call a great game, have a great game plan in place. I think the Vikings are just going to go into LA, and I think that they're going to move on Monday night. Moving on to the divisional round, we have some very interesting matchups going on here. I think Kansas City versus Chargers. I think this has an opportunity to be a closer game, what people think. If the Chargers come out and play that Jim Harbaugh playoff football, run the ball, control the game. But even though the Chiefs have gotten lucky many of times this year, I think Patrick Mahomes just going to lead them over the top, and he's going to go out there and make the plays that need to be made. Um, I think it's going to be important that they get that run game going with Kareem Hunt. I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to have a good plan. Chris Jones is going to be back. Chris Jones is going to have a lot of effect on Justin Herbert in that run game. And I think that run game is going to kind of get shut down, and Kansas City's going to move on to the AFC Championship once again. Now, this next one in the AFC is probably going to be the best game of the entire playoffs. Two red hot teams. Honestly, I wish this was to go to the Super Bowl and this wasn't just in the divisional round. But this is, I think, going to be the best game of the entire playoffs. Is the Baltimore Ravens going into Buffalo, two of the hottest teams. This is probably the hardest game that you would pick in the playoffs. I think the Ravens are red hot. I think Lamar might choke again. Josh Allen's going to prove why he should be MVP. He's going to go out there and put the team on his back, deal it out to James Cook. The Bills defense is going to get the edge pressure. The Baltimore Ravens, their biggest struggle and their biggest weakness all year has been the offensive line. We've seen at the very beginning of the year. Luckily, they've had Lamar and Derrick Henry to kind of offset it. I think Derrick Henry is very quiet in this game. I think if the Bills defense shows up with Sean McDermott, I think the big edge presence has a huge impact on this game. And then offense, Josh Allen and James Cook. Josh Allen's just gonna make amazing plays. Might even go off for another 5 touchdowns again. I think he's gonna lead them in to the AFC Championship to get his rematch against Patrick Mahomes. Moving on to the NFC side, you got the Lions versus Commanders. I think this is where the Commanders' Cinderella kind of run in the playoffs ends. They get matched up to the Lions, having to go into Detroit. This one, Commanders, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. The Lions, that's all they want to do. They want to run the ball and go off of play action and play defense with Aaron Glenn's mastermind plans. So the Lions are just going to go up, run it down the Commanders' throat. David Montgomery is going to be back at this point. They're going to have Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles back together. And honestly, they might not even throw a ball the whole game. It might be one of those games where Jared Goff comes in like earlier in the year. They scored 40 something points, had 400 yards. Jared Goff had 80 yards passing. It's going to be one of those type of games. So I think the Lions just kind of control the line of scrimmage, dominate up front, and like they do with everybody. The second game in the NFC in the divisional round, this one's a very interesting one. Depends on which Eagles you get here. Jalen Hurts going to struggle. I think having the best offensive line is going to be a big plus here going against that Brian Flores' front seven and those blitz packages. I just don't think that the Vikings secondary is good enough here. I think AJ Brown, I think they're going to sell out on stopping Saquon, and Brian Flores is going to focus on this. And I think it's going to kind of put a lot on that secondary, which isn't that good. And they still do have Harrison Smith, but their corners just are not up to snuff with playing against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Eagles front set, as long as the Eagles defense can shut down Sam Darnold and kind of just contain Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, then I think that they're going to be moving on here and going against the Detroit Lions. Now, this kind of looks boring. The 1 and the 2s going against each other, going into the AFC. The Bills versus the Chiefs going into Arrowhead Stadium, AFC Championship. We've seen this multiple times. Kansas City has had the Bills number. Kansas City always finds a way to win. Tony Romo is going to glaze Patrick Mahomes. Chris Collinsworth is going to glaze Patrick Mahomes. But I think Josh Allen pulls it out this year. I think he makes his way to the Super Bowl. I think he finds a way to will the Bills into a win in Arrowhead, go on the road, and everybody was terrified to play the Bengals. I think it should be that way with Josh Allen and the Bills. Just a red hot team. The Chiefs are kind of just kind of slowly inched out wins. I don't think that's going to do it here. I think it's finally going to catch up with them. I think Josh Allen's just going to make huge plays and be the big difference maker here. And it's going to be one of the best games of the NFL season. And I think the Bills are going to be making their way into the Super Bowl. Moving on to NFC, two similarly built teams. I've talked about this a lot. Even though they're pass game, Lions want to do a lot on play action. Eagles aren't so much that way. I do think these are two similarly built teams, great offensive lines, great running backs. They want to run the ball first and then air it out second. Not so much for the Eagles as much, but they're still kind of that way as well. Defenses, will Aiden Hutchinson be back for the Lions? That's the big question. He would be a huge difference here. Can the Lions get healthy on defense? I know they did a great job against the Vikings, but Sam Darnold's a lot different than this Eagles offense. Although I do think they step up to the occasion. I do think they control the game. I think they get the pressure on Jalen Hurts. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to be back. I think that's going to be the big difference maker here. Home field advantage going into Detroit. I think it's going to be a struggle for the Eagles. And I think Dan Campbell's going to have them up ready to go. Probably converts a couple fourth downs big into the game to kind of go into his mindset to just make sure that they can pull this one out and make their way to the Super Bowl for the first time in history. It'll be the first time NFC champions. Now, this is the matchup that I've thought is going to be happening for weeks. I've been kind of planning on this, the Bills versus Lions. I do have two friends. One's a Bills fan, one is a Lions fan. I'm sure we'll watch it together. It'll be a great time watching them go back and forth trying to win a Super Bowl for the first time in team history. Bills are 0-4 in the Super Bowl, lost those 4 straight in the 90s. Detroit's never even been to the Super Bowl, even though they're one of the oldest teams. Which team's going to do it? One's got Josh Allen, the MVP. One's got the Lions have got a better all-around team. I do think that the Lions are going to be the Super Bowl champions. I think that they're going to pull it out. I think that Aiden Hutchinson, once again, is going to be a big difference here. I think that play action with Amon-Ra, Jared Goff's going to finally has been there. He's going to finally get that Super Bowl under his belt. I think Dan Campbell is going to be looked at as a genius. If they're going to do it, this is the year that they have to do it because both of their coordinators are going to be gone and be head coaches. Aaron Glenn's going to leave. Ben Johnson's going to leave. Joe Brady might even leave on the Bills side too and be a head coach. There's 3 potential head coach coordinators in this game. And I think that the Lions, that run game with that offensive line, the best offensive line in football, the best running back duo in football, is just going to lead to be able to have the play action with Laporta, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tim Patrick hasn't done anything in a couple of weeks, but I think it's going to be a big point. And I think the Lions are going to go ahead and get their first Super Bowl win in team history and be undefeated in Super Bowls and 1-0. And the Bills are going to get theirs in the future. Josh Allen's definitely going to win one eventually. Even though they're going to be 0-5 at this point as a team. It's going to be disappointing, but I think the Lions just have enough. I think it's their year. They have to do it this year. Their coordinators are leaving, and they're not going to have much backups. So, this is my Super Bowl predictions. This is my NFL playoff predictions. Let me know in the comments what you think about them, what you think's wrong, what you think's right, what you think's just plain crazy that's not going to happen. And please go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you want more. I'm going to be coming out with more NFL content, mostly NFL draft stuff in the next couple months, and mostly free agency and coaching hirings. So, in my opinions on those, if you want to hear my opinions on them, make sure you like, subscribe, and stay watching out for future NFL content that I have out. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, feel like John Moran. Need a triple-double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Moran. Need a triple-double.